Hi guys, today I will be talking about the issue regarding societal stigma and attitudes towards women and their sexuality. As a woman myself, I do see this as a very pressing issue and a very continual issue that really isn't talked about, as it is, probably one of the smaller issues in life when you compare it to the grand scheme of things. However, I still think it's really, really important. Firstly, I want to just talk about the social issue itself and what it entails. Basically, judging a woman based on something that a man is definitely not judged for to the same extent demonstrates great inequality, and I think that is very present in today's society. Firstly, the concept of gender roles. So, even though gender roles can often be seen as something to, set a sense of order of what's wrong and what's right, they can also easily have a really tolling implication on someone's self-worth, someone's person, or how someone is expected to behave within themselves. And the prime example of this is sexuality in women. As a woman myself, I really do see this as a present issue in this time, although, some really might disagree. Of course, there has been a lot of progression and evolution over the years. However, there still is underlying stigma present, and it's commonly known that when it comes to being open about sex, asking for help in regard to, maybe sexual health or how you're feeling about something, or, enjoying sex, women are often looked at with a lot of distaste. However, this is definitely not common with men. It's sometimes labelled as a social identity instead of a double standard, and I think this is one of the biggest problems with all societal issues in this day and age, because excuses are being made where excuses should not be being made. It is a double standard. It's not a social identity. We can't just claim one gender to be one type of way because that's how it's been in the past. There are many factors of society that make an impact on this issue, one being one's culture, like the way they were brought up with their norms and how they believe, one's personal values, the way they've chosen to take on the issue, and also social media. So that's the topic I've decided to focus on today, just because I think it's very, very prevalent in our age group. Social media is a very common public way in which women are often scrutinised for their choices and behaviours regarding sexuality, and in light of this, I will be using the two YouTubers that maybe will become known to all of you, Tana Mojo and Jake Paul, who have recently actually become a couple. I will be discussing the comparison between how male and female social media influencers are being judged and discussed and talked about based off the content that they create that may include, some sexual nature. One YouTuber that fits this situation in particular that I have followed for years is Tana Mojo herself. She's a lifestyle comedy vlogger with a very vulgar exterior, and although she's freshly 21, she definitely does appear to be a lot older. She's definitely been scrutinised over the years, even though her motto is to live for yourself and, be yourself and be self-expressive. She's definitely copped a lot of backlash because of this, this outwardly nature. People have gone as far on news outlets and her other followers and other content creators to label her to be a slut, to be too provocative, too self-expressive, and even racist remarks as far to call her white trash because of her exterior. Starkly compared to this is her husband in itself, as sad as that is to say. There's a lot of sexually open male influencers out there that get a completely different response to the way that they behave, and are somehow given a lot more leeway and a lot more lenience, which I think is very unfair. A few examples of this are situations with Jake Paul. In his prior long-term relationships, he had two girlfriends for very long periods of time, one being Erica Costell and one being Alyssa Violet, and both these girls have come out with claims of horrible misogynistic behaviour that they have endured from Jake Paul himself, to the extent of being kicked out of his house so that he could cheat on them in peace, even though he claimed they cheated on him, and situations where he would disallow them to bring males into his house, but he would make them sleep elsewhere so he could continue being unfaithful in front of them. He used his money and his power and his following to manipulate these girls into doing whatever he said, and all of this behaviour, in theory, was just swept under the rug. although it was definitely faulted and he received the hate that he deserved, it all was turned around in the span of a few months. And, you know, he's kept his following of 19 million subscribers. He's kept all the money he's making. And now, you know, people look at him as a changed person, even though nothing's changed at all. After all these misogynistic behaviours and claims were publicised, there was even as far as a documentary made by Shane Dawson saying that he had sociopathic tendencies, and people still stand by him, and he's really gotten away with all of these behaviours. So, you know, both Jake and Tanner, are content creators on a platform that is very public to many people, being YouTube. Their subscriber counts are about 25 million between the two. You know, Tanner especially receives a lot of attention in the social media world with all her scandals and other drama that's associated with her. And the way that she is spoken to and digested by the public is absolutely disgusting, even though she's trying to allow women to be open about themselves. This impacts society as a whole in respect to the youth of our generation, I think, personally. Children these days tend to grow up a lot faster than they have before, and because of the ever-evolving nature of our society, it's really easy to be incredibly impressionable without even realising, and warping our minds to be thinking backwards and focusing on how we've thought in the past and not how we should be thinking in the future. We as a society should be teaching our youth and re-educating our older generation about the changing times of women's sexuality and how we should be embracing ourselves as women and embracing how we treat other people and how we see men and women as equal in other aspects of life, and it should be applied to every aspect of life. For younger females especially, all these actions may encourage themselves to believe that they deserve less opportunity or less right to expression compared to males, or less chance to say what they want to say because of what they're seeing online. This example is just one of many, but it is definitely a primary example that leads to a lot of broader issues. Seeing something as small as the way that Tanner and Jake are separately treated online is just the beginning of something that can lead to something so much worse. When issues such as female abortion laws and unjust cases of rape are brought to light, it is sad to say, but there are a lot of brainwashed individuals that are not as shocked or surprised or upset as they should be. As people say, from little things, big things grow. And it is, in fact, with this situation that we need to look at how these little situations are being brushed under the rug because we are just used to them being like that. However, when these bigger worldly issues start, nobody wants to talk about it because that's just the way that it's meant to be. I believe this saying really applies here about the big things and little things. As all these small issues are pushed to the side, we should be striving to diminish them so that we can prevent this way of thinking in the future when all of this really starts to matter. As a final point, I would like to say that historically this is not a surprise either. In generations past, that the way that we've been taught to think easily can shape how we think today. And, historical suppression of female sexuality was very, very present, including things to the extent of legal females' restrictions on sex, sexual deception, and similar today, a very large double standard in regard to sexual morality. Reoccurring findings in all of these research from the past should be even more encouraging for us to change how we believe the situation should be looked at today. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So I just wanted to get my point across that we should really try and put women in the same basket as men when it comes to talking about sex and sexuality. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.